Now, where did it all begin? Well, let's start with Italy. Italy had a lot of problems with film, with artists. Okay? Italy came out of World War II. They'd been through Hitler and Mussolini. They were a destroyed country. Okay? They went through 2 civil wars rebuilding their country between 1945 and 1970. And they were just putting themselves back together. One example of this, I'll go into more detail later, there's Mario Bava had done a monster movie in the 60s, in the 50s, 60s, thereabouts. And he had gone into the theater in a private showing with the film commission to show them the movie he had just finished doing, to try and see how to get it produced, how to get it in the theaters, that kind of thing. And he had the master reel with him. And they broke into the theater shooting. And he grabbed the film, cut it from the projector with a knife and ran. Film was destroyed, half the ending was gone. And he was terrified to do film after that. He was absolutely terrified. And you have to understand that. I mean, people would be shooting through backlots, through everything. I mean, it was just horrible back then. And that wasn't the only problem. Acting was a problem. There weren't a lot of actors in Italy. Acting itself wasn't really big inside Italy from that standpoint. They were big into opera, they were big into plays, they were big into television. They weren't so big into film. Okay? And one of the things I remember the most is a conversation with Maestro Fellini and Dario Argento, who was telling me that they want to be quiet. They want to just sit there and let me take the advice from my friends and see what happens, because they want me to succeed as an artist. But they were afraid, because they were sitting there with Mario Bava, listening to him on the phone with American theater agents, listening to them scream at him, listening to actors reject him left and right, listening to people yell at him, because no one wanted to shoot in Italy. No one wanted to do anything with these people. And that was a lot of the problems. Okay? Sometimes people look at me and go, Chris, how could you be in such a terrible movie? The answer is because I was the only one who accepted it. 50 actors before me had turned it down. And not only that, but I made something out of it. Okay? You know, and that's where it comes in. I mean, these films, a lot of the films we did back then, we did because we loved it. We did it because we admired the people we were working with. Okay? The actors that came to Mario Bava were the top actors in the industry because they respected him, because they liked him, because they wanted to see his dreams happen. Okay? Now, I mean, along those lines, and this is another kind of thing with agents, I was talking with Vincent Price on the set of the Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe films, and I said, Vincent, I'm honored to work with you. I'm enjoying this. I'm thrilled to be a part of this. But I have to ask, you know, I mean, why did it take so long to do these productions? He didn't have to do these films in Italy, and he wasn't bound by the scripts to shoot under the horror ban. And Vincent had said, well, the problem was me, but not directly me, my agent. Roger Corman had put into his scripts, into the copyright of his scripts, that if I did not star in these films, they would not be made. Okay? Now, I liked these films, I liked Roger, I liked working with Roger, but my agent hated him. My agent would not let me work with him. And then I found out through Vincent that this is what happens in the industry. That an agent would say, such and such company gets a contractor or gets asked by somebody else, and they say, oh, well, your director's not represented by our company, so no. He can only work for directors who are represented by our company. I mean, I don't know if it's still that way, but it was that way in the past. And that's some of the horrible things of the industry. And Vincent said, I eventually got rid of that terrible agent. I got a better agent. And now we can finally do this film. We can finally work together. And I can finally enjoy my life. And that's some of what the things that went on back then. Now, in Italy, in 1971, the entire world knows about this. There isn't a living person that doesn't know this. It was the headlines. New York Times, Daily News, New York Post, for 10 solid years. United States releases The Exorcist. Italy goes nuts. All Vatican bans all American directors from working in Italy. No American film can be shot in Italy. No Italian film director can make a horror film or a film in the likeness of The Exorcist. Okay? I mean, this went everywhere. You couldn't do a film with blood and gore, with excessive death, with unnecessary death, or whatever they deemed it, death, spiritual unease. Spiritual unease could be anything. Okay? They literally just went crazy with this ban. And it affected everybody, high and low, and no one could do anything. And then on top of which, other countries joined in. London dropped Hammer Films. France stopped doing horror. Spain stopped doing horror. The entire of Europe looked at America and said, you want to do your horror films, America? Do them in your own country. Okay? I mean, wow. And this ran for 10 years. The first Italian horror film made in Italy, which wasn't even a horror film, it was called a Galileo, was in 1978. It was Lucio Fulci's grand masterpiece, 7 Notes in Black, released under heavy strictures. No violent death, no spiritual unease, no blood and gore. And it started going through Italy. And it went for 3 solid years in Italy. And Mario Bava was sitting there going, okay, maybe, but they still wouldn't let him do his films. And he was going nuts. He could not do a single film, no matter what he did. And so finally he had enough. And he staged his own death publicly. That caught everybody by surprise and caught everybody's attention. And the Vatican went, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Maybe it's time to rethink things. And then they went to Lucio Fulci and they asked him to create another version of 7 Notes in Black with the strictures removed. And 7 Notes toured all of Italy for an entire year, and Italy voted on what they thought was allowable by directors in film. And finally, in 1982, they removed the ban on horror. And the first American to be allowed into Italy to shoot film was Toby Hopper. And he created Salem's Lot. Now people are going, wait, Salem's Lot already existed. Yes, it did. Okay? Salem's Lot, he originally sent to Italy. They said, no, you can't do it. He said, okay, I don't care, I'm an American, I can do what I want. And he did the film in America. And then after the ban was removed, in '84, he was allowed to go to Italy and to reshoot it, or shoot a film, or shoot any film he wanted to. And he said, you know, I didn't really like how I treated Stephen King's work. I'd like to do it better. And I think I can do it better now. And he came to Italy and he created a 3-hour version of Salem's Lot. And he was the first American director there. Now, that was Italy. So, where does some of this come into me? Well, my grandmother was a seamstress on the film Cleopatra. And she knew Mario Bava, and she liked him. And once I was somewhere around about the age of 10, I think it was, she introduced me to him. And when I was around 12, 13, I went to Italy and I worked on films with him. Now, he kind of snuck me in places, in a few places. There was one time he grabbed me when I was, I don't even remember how old, and photographed me so that I could be filmed with Nicoletta Elmi, who's like 3 years younger than me, and have us look like we were the same age. So, you know, and that was Mario Bava. He did tons of stunts, and he did lots of illusions that were just unreal. I think the funniest thing about him, he created an illusion where, like, you know, the whole thing about a person standing in your hand. Well, he would do that, but he would do that with this complex machine contrived of water and ducks and round tables spinning the camera and stuff. I mean, it was amazing what he would do. And I'll go more into him later. But that's where a lot of it all began.